I'm Abong.
I'm Sonia.
And I'm Kate.
And today we're dishing with you from Lebanese Taverna, located at 7141 Arlington Boulevard in Bethesda.
And our guest today is Summer Whitford, who is the author of Join Us at the Embassy. She's also a food and wine critic as well. And real quickly, what is Join Us at the Embassy about? I mean, the food looks phenomenal on this book, but...
I wish I could say it was my food, but it's not. Join Us at the Embassy is a gastronomic tour of Washington embassies, because I used to cater for embassies, and DC is unique in a capital city because our embassies from 174 countries open their doors to share their culture. In most cities, embassies are a closed diplomatic operation, and the public can't come to visit to see wine events, art exhibits, and things like that. But it's also written the way I like to travel and the way I grew up living overseas. So it's about the food, the wine, the culture, and the people of the countries from their perspective. And it's written like a travel guide with easy to read sections so you can flip through it and go to the country and put your best foot forward.
So what was the inspiration behind it? Because you said you were used to cater at the embassies, so why did you decide to go through that route?
It started, actually, my agent one day was hearing me talk about whenever someone would hear I was catering an embassy or going to an embassy event, which anyone can do in Washington. I mean, you don't have to be an invited guest to a special party at the residence. They have public events all the time.
But as a caterer for the embassy, wouldn't you have to be providing the type of food that was from that country?
Yes. And
wow, then you can cook anything.
I would like to think I can, but you have to learn not only how to cook the food, but you need to learn the protocol, because when you're setting the table, you need to understand that there are dining traditions that invoke caste systems, religious, gender, all kinds of restrictions about how you eat, where you eat, who you sit next to, who gets served first. There's ranking order depending on the country. There's customs of greetings that are very different. And Americans, we like to think that we're really open, but our overly casual attitude about greetings and titles can sometimes make us at a disadvantage. And so I wrote this book to also help people feel more comfortable going to an embassy event, but also when you want to go to the country, growing up overseas like I did, you need to be able to very quickly get your feet on the ground and feel comfortable with the other culture. And that's not always easy to do.
What's the biggest mistake that you think the general population makes when they go to an embassy?
The general population generally does two things that puts them at a bit of a disadvantage. They tend to underdress. Americans are overly casual about their dress, and we're overly casual about the informal use of you. Many languages have greetings that are formal, that recognize title, education, heritage, all sorts of age issues. Elders in certain countries are given much more respect automatically just by virtue of that, and it gets us in trouble sometimes.
I made that mistake, I'm now realizing. Because you meet an ambassador and you say, you know, it's a
nice
pleasure
to meet you.
Yes.
Or thank you for inviting us to your country.
And that's in there too. I wrote in every chapter has gift giving restrictions and rules. So if you want to show up with flowers, certain flowers you don't bring.
Right.
Certain kinds of gifts, you don't bring alcohol in a Muslim country.
Right.
You don't shake hands with women in a Muslim country unless you know it's safe. You don't automatically assume that it's okay to bring gifts even, and what gifts can you bring? In France, where I grew up, in Germany, because it's a wine producing country, you can oftentimes offend the hostess if you bring wine, because they've already made all of the menu planned and paired with wine. So it's kind of like an assumption that you're going to not know how to pair wine, so I'm bringing you this gift.
And your wine is better than...
And that's right. And if you are doing it, it had better be very expensive and very good.
My mother-in-law is Swedish and does this funny thing where when she invites people over for dinner, they'll say, "What can I bring?" Typical American. And she'll be like, "Well, if I wanted you to bring something, I'd come over to your house." And I'm like...
Now, the exception to that is if you go to Finland. The Finns are very egalitarian. They're the only country in the EU that had both a president and a premier simultaneously that were women.
Oh.
And because of their egalitarian issues and how they support women's issues, they like that. So when you offer that, that's a real positive thing in Finnish culture.
Remember
Yeah,
that.
well, that's
Bring your
good.
own
Swedish no,
food.
Finnish
Well,
yes.
you obviously know a lot about international etiquette, but you come at it from a food standpoint, and you call yourself the food and wine diva, which I really like. But so, tell us, do you have a favorite embassy food? Are you allowed to tell us that?
Well, I have to say, I love, my heart and soul is French. I grew up and spent really important years in my life there. But I will say that the Finnish embassy in particular, these embassy events that you get to go to are really a rare opportunity to get world-class exposure. For example, Finland, at their embassy is not only a world award winning, it's now the only embassy that's LEED certified. Green seal, very important. They also had that embassy designed by two of the most important Finnish designers and architects. They also curate from the museums in Finland all of their exhibits.
Wow.
And they have a fabulous chef who cooks really fabulous food from all over the world. But most especially, the Finnish people are so warm and so friendly, and their embassy really makes you feel like you're in Finland, which technically you are.
You are, yeah.
But it really makes you feel like when you're there, you're a part of something special and different.
Is there an embassy that you wish was more open to the public and would invite people more often?
There are some countries that, because they're small and they can't necessarily afford, what people also don't realize is Washington is unique because they practice a form of diplomacy called public diplomacy, and that is, embassies legally are the ambassador is the personal representative of the head of state. They are the trade rep, and they are a governmental representative, but now they are their cultural. And each ambassador comes in and out and influences the tone of the entertaining and cultural styles that they want to project to the public. So for example, Pakistan is a country, because of their religious prohibitions and probably also some of the other issues that go on, they don't necessarily have as many events open to the public as others. But what I like about going to an embassy like Pakistan is it's a chance for Americans to learn more about a beautiful culture and people that's not what you see on the news. If it bleeds, it leads. It's not always a good way to learn about a culture.
Right.
And that's why Afghanistan is in my book.
Do you talk in the book about ways that people can take advantage of these events?
I do, and I also, on my blog, I have a whole page dedicated to just getting people information about going to an embassy event, how to get on email lists, all sorts of information, where to buy tickets, because you literally can go to an opera performance, you can go to a wine tasting. I'm doing wine tastings at embassies. You can go to food events. They're really a great way to learn about the country.
Well, we're looking forward to taking a food and culture tour of the city through your embassy tour with Join Us at the Embassy. Make sure you check it out. And as always, thanks for checking us out here on this episode of The District Dish.